Hello everybody, my name is YSTV, back again with another video. Today we are hopping back into r/prorevenge. You guys enjoy that a lot, so here I am delivering another one. If you're wondering what prorevenge is, it's basically petty revenge, except the consequences are much more severe, making the revenge, quote unquote, sweeter. But anyway, let's hop right into today's video. Our first story is about a guy who didn't wake his friend up for college and he was late to class, resulting in him failing. Let's get into it. I see a lot of hot-blooded revenge stories lately where huge storms get stirred up and someone gets fired or arrested. My story is Coldblooded Revenge, where a very small and deliberate action makes my victim lose out. My first semester at college, I had a roommate who was a pain in the butt. He made up honor code rules to tell us we weren't allowed to watch movies or listen to music that he didn't like. Didn't realize food wasn't his, stayed up past curfew with friends over being loud, didn't help clean the dorm for inspections, and had a consistent holier-than-thou attitude because of his religion. I'm pretty calm and I rarely ever get even, but after a semester of his nonsense, I had no issues with revenge. He was going to study music but failed the entrance audition to an important class and needed to take another 2 credits in order to keep his scholarship. So he joined the social dance class I was taking at 7:45 every other day. A couple weeks in, he decides to set his alarm to 6:15 a.m., 15 minutes before I get up. My morning habit is very tight. Wake up at 6:30, shower, change, eat, and walk to class, arriving with 5 minutes to spare. His morning habit is allow the alarm to play for 5 to 10 minutes before turning it off, go back to sleep until I finish showering and come back into the room, then get up, shower, and leave just a few minutes after me, arriving right as class starts. I deal with it for a while and he even acknowledges that it's probably annoying and says, "I should turn it off since I don't get up anyway." He doesn't. I figure I could use this habit against him. He was essentially Pavlov trained to wake up when I came back into the room, so in the last 2 weeks of the semester, I changed my routine slightly. I would eat before the showering. That made it so I came in the room just a few minutes before leaving and with just enough time to walk to class. He, not realizing it was so late, took a shower and arrived at class with only a few minutes left, getting an absence for the day. The dance department has a very strict rule that 4 unexcused absences is an automatic fail. Roommate doesn't remember this rule. He continues to rely on me coming into the room to wake him up. He continues being absent for the last 4 days of class. His semester report card gets an F, which brings his GPA too low to get a scholarship the next year. Hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. You shouldn't always rely on others. Sometimes you gotta man up and do it for yourself. If this person earned a scholarship, they obviously should be responsible enough to get up on time. At least sometimes. I mean, this dude obviously did it every day, which is a little bit uncalled for. Oh well, sucks for him. Our next story is about a ridiculous teacher and her attempts to fail her class on purpose because she's just a bad teacher. A little backstory. I was a geek/nerd in high school. I was co-captain of the chess team, captain of the physics team, helped run the book club and creative writing club. I had a handful of friends and everyone else was just there doing their own thing, honestly. But that group of friends included some of the smartest students in the school from 9th to 12th grade. In my junior year, I took a course in electronics at a community college in the city 30 miles away. This course ended up taking up half of my schedule, even getting on the bus at 6:30 in the morning. This meant I would arrive at school mid-lunch break and only have 2 remaining periods available to schedule classes. For the first half of junior year, I had physics immediately after lunch, followed by English with Mrs. H at 1:20. Our normal periods, or blocks, were 90 minutes long. As most high school orientations go, Mrs. H's was pretty standard. This is the syllabus, this is the reading list, this is my test schedule. And then she explained that we would have 4 projects throughout the course, each based on a book, and those projects were 60% of our final grade. For most classes, this is fairly unheard of. Sure, a final may be worth nearly that much, but not a group of simple book reports. Me and the rest of the class thought that would be an easy A. I even chatted with Lindsay, the editor of the school paper and a good friend, about how easy this would be. She was surprised too, but figured it was due to the teacher being new. The first week of Mrs. H's class went pretty typically for me. I found that most English classes tend to repeat themselves, and I often spend my time in them with 2 notebooks open, one for notes and the other for a project/book report/essay, etc. So I have something to do, so I'm not bored in class. Note, here I say bored, not disengaged. A common complaint from virtually every instructor I've had in my entire school career is that I always ask questions and always raise my hand, and often don't give other students a chance to participate. I'm not the hide in the back and hope no one notices me type. Week 2 of school and we get assigned the first of the projects, and the book is Of Mice and Men. By this point, I have read the book twice, one with the version we got in class and again using the version at the school library. The project is a form of expanded book report, including drawings, a list of literary terms to look for in the text, and even a synopsis that had to have a specific word count. Nothing unusual. Just not the type of stuff typically in a book report, especially for a book that was around 180 pages long in the version for the class. Note, I did look the exact page count up, it's 187, but I will say it's around 180 because it's relevant to the story. I find this project to be somewhat strange, but think, whatever, I'll work on it tonight and be done. Nope. I spent 4 hours racking my head looking for all the literary terms that were required and attempting to check off a simple list of the requirements. Onomatopoeia, only one in the entire book, we had to find 2. Red herring, only one in the entire book, we had to find 2. Collusion, no clear example in the book, we had to find 2. Lascivious act, no clear example in the book, we had to find 2. And so on. There are reported over 40 different literary and some more along the lines of legal terms we had to find examples of within a book that's only 180 pages long. I put together a list of the answers I thought fit these and filled about 6 to 7 pages of notes on the project, then took them with me to school. I sit down in class and immediately the girl to the right of me is asked to move and Lindsay sits down. She asked me if I had worked on the project. I said I had and showed her my notes. She reciprocated by handing me her composition book and told me to open it to the sticky note. Lindsay is what could be easily called as OCD with her notes. Her composition book was immaculate and included a full page front and back on the assignment from the day before and another 5 front and back on her working on the project the night before. Her notes were almost identical to mine. We even started to cross comparison parts while Mrs. H was doing roll call. We then decided to meet at the library after school to go into the notes further, but both of us plan to ask questions. About 40 minutes go by, then Miss H asks, "Anyone look over the project and have any questions?" I'm not making this up. Every single student in the entire classroom raises their hands. "Well, okay then," she says, and proceeds to start answering questions one by one, with me, Lindsay, and half a dozen others writing down every single question and answer. But to be honest, that is more generous to say. Her answers were more akin to, "Please read the story more closely," and "I don't believe you understand the term correctly," and whatnot. As the Q&A went on, I was getting more and more confused and frustrated. Before we knew it, the bell rang and the class left. Lindsay and I met up at the library along with half a dozen others and hammered through the notes. Lindsay and I weren't alone in our notes. 3 others in that group alone had similar notes about the assignment and we were all confused. We decided to work through each example one at a time and see how much we could get done together. We met like that for the next 3 days and all finally had virtually identical reports. Since the report wasn't due for another week, most of us just felt it was a confusing project and that we hadn't completed it promptly. When the project was due, we all turned it in and felt relieved going into the weekend. What seemed simple enough turned into 14 to 15 pages front and back for each of us, not including the illustrations. Oh boy, were we wrong. Monday rolls around, class starts up and Miss H decides to open the class with a discussion of the class's average score. She is specific to say she is disappointed and expects better of her students going forward, and anyone who did not pass is expected to attend mandatory study hall after school before writing a 54% across the board. Then she proceeds to hand back the assignments. I got a D. Suffice to say, I'm pissed, but I keep quiet to catch Lindsay as she is leaving and we agree to go to the library again. Half the class follows us. We look over every project, specifically those that Lindsay, me, and the others in our study group had done. The study group all managed to get low to mid 60s or Ds and Ds minuses. Most of the rest had scored 50% or less. We were beyond confused. We had points taken off for seemingly petty things such as having the wrong page number for the example and missing words from the quotes of each example. Lindsay and I almost blew our tops when we double checked and found we had in fact used the proper page numbers and the quotes were exact. She and I decided to investigate further and the group breaks up. Now I mentioned I helped run the book club and the creative writing club. Well, at my school a teacher had to sponsor and help run any clubs. For both of those clubs it was the same teacher, Miss Anderson, the librarian. I walked up to her office, asked her if she had some time, and spent 30 minutes going over the project with her. She is as confused as I am and asked if she can have a copy to show another teacher. I agree and make a photocopy for her. The next day, the classroom is filled with hostility. Not only has word gotten around that the grades make no sense, but that day is also the first of the mandatory study hall sessions for those that didn't pass, so for the whole class. And many had extracurricular activities they have after class. Miss H senses the hostility and basically ignores the class for the entire lesson. The bell rings and I get up, so does half the class, and we leave. Mrs. H doesn't say a word. I go to meet with Miss Anderson, and this time Miss Bell is with her. Miss Bell is an English teacher, and teaches an elective creative writing class that I had had my freshman year. Miss Bell knew me very well, not only from being in her class, but because I was in stage crew for the drama club in my freshman year, and Miss Bell ran the drama department. Miss Bell immediately asked to see my version of the book, which I of course give her. She flips through it for 2 minutes before saying, "I know Miss H is new, but this is messed up." I agree and asked her what I should do. "Don't worry, I'll start asking around," she says, and then leaves. The next day, a Wednesday after roll call, Miss H walks around and hands us pink slips to half the class, the same half that left the day prior. The slip says it is a warning for failing to attend after school detention. I immediately started trying to calm down as there had been no prior warning or slip stating I had been giving a detention. Not to mention, after school detention was not something that my high school typically did. The school instead preferred assigning work study, clean the school with the janitors, or to suspend problem students. As soon as class is over, I go to my locker, practically running, and pull out the student handbook. This handbook had not changed in 3 years, and I had memorized it my freshman year. I looked up the section on detention, then returned to the classroom. Miss H is there gathering things from her desk. "Excuse me, may I have my first warning notice? I never got it." "Your what?" "My first warning notice. According to the student handbook, all students will be notified of a mandatory work study by a warning notice written by the instructor." I even showed her the page in the handbook for proof. "Oh, that would be your return assignment." I pulled out the return assignment and proceeded to read off every notation in it and that isn't in my handwriting. Me: "I don't see it. Please take this back. I will speak with my counselor." I reach out to hand her the pink slip. "No, you do not get to do that. You have a pink slip. It's yours." For reference, a pink slip is essentially a written reprimand, and any student that receives 2 or more in a 30-day period is automatically assigned work study. 4 or more is a suspension. "I'm afraid I will have to report you to my counselor and the vice principal. This is an abuse of authority and contrary to school rules." I then turn and leave the classroom, heading for the office. The VP isn't in, but my counselor is, and I wait 45 minutes to speak with him and file the complaint. He says he will talk with the vice principal when he can. Thursday rolls around, and along with it comes the second of the mandatory detentions, and this time most of the class stays behind. Not me. I leave. So does Lindsay and half a dozen others. The next day, another pink slip. This one, however, states that I now have to come in for work study on Saturday. So did Lindsay and the others. Lindsay is pissed, and she said she is going to her parents. I instead go to Miss Anderson. She is dumbfounded that Miss H is doing this. She asks me to wait for a few minutes and makes a phone call. Within minutes, Miss Bell is there, followed by Mr. Snyder, who's the chemistry teacher, and Miss Kirk, the English teacher. Miss Kirk is the English department head and technically is Miss H's direct boss. Miss Kirk was also my English teacher in 9th grade and someone who I considered a friend, along with Mr. Snyder, who sponsored the physics club. These were all teachers that knew me well, knew what kind of student I was, and knew this assignment was BS. Miss Kirk decided to have a meeting with Miss H on Monday and even went so far as to write a note for myself, Lindsay, and the others that had been assigned work study, excusing us from it. I think everything is going to be fine now. Nope. Monday, and this time a third pink slip, this one saying I am suspended after the end of class for not attending work study. I am furious. I stand up and start to leave. Miss H says, "Where are you going, mister?" According to the handbook, I am suspended, so I need to be in the office, and I leave, but I don't go to the office. According to the student handbook again, no teacher alone may make the decision to suspend any student on their own. They need a consensus and signature from the vice principal. However, my pink slip had no signature other than Miss H's. I go to Miss Kirk's classroom, but she is teaching, so I leave a note with her teacher's aide and go to the library. Miss Kirk doesn't show up after school, but I didn't need her to be nearby to hear what was going on. Miss Kirk had apparently planned to speak with Miss H after school and had informed Miss H by email. Miss H didn't read her email or didn't care, and acted anyway. Miss Kirk must have confronted Miss H, and the two were shouting at each other in Miss H's classroom. Think Professor McGonagall versus Umbridge in Order of the Phoenix. Miss Kirk kept saying there were rules and a way things are done at school. Miss H kept shouting it was her classroom and her decision, no matter what someone else may say. I left after the argument broke up and Miss Kirk stormed out of the school. I called the next morning and sure enough, I was suspended. I didn't go to school for the rest of the week. Lindsay, on the other hand, she went to school and with a lawyer in tow. See, Lindsay was a smart kid and her parents knew it. They were professors at a major state college nearby. They took one look at what had been going on and called a lawyer that day. They also took her project and had another professor look it over. This professor found several startling things. Number 1. The version of the book that the reports were graded off of was longer, more descriptive, and had a very different layout for pages than the one we had been issued in class. Number 2. Several of the items on the checklist were downright impossible without a great deal of definition or word gerrymandering. Number 3. It was obvious that something had to be wrong with how the reports were being graded, that numerous things weren't lining up, and the instructor did not care. Lindsay's parents were livid. They threatened to file a lawsuit the day Lindsay returned with her lawyer, and then actually did so when Lindsay was turned away due to being suspended. I wasn't a part of the fight because the Saturday after I was suspended was my 16th birthday, and I decided to get my GED and move on to community college. Half of my school schedule was already at a community college anyway, so it just made sense. Lindsay, however, pressed the lawsuit and not only got the grade and record reserved, but managed to do so for everyone else in the class. She graduated with honors and was the valedictorian of the senior class. Miss H, on the other hand, ended up getting fired when she tried to give out students more mandatory detention a few weeks later, and Miss Kirk found out. See, when someone knowingly breaks the rules and their boss knows and their lawyer's involved, you can see where this is going. The school had no choice and fired her for cause. I am still friends with Miss Anderson and Mr. Snyder. They both told me she did not go quietly. Okay, first of all, that was a long story and that took a very long time to do. Second of all, that teacher is messed up, she does not know what she's doing, and she's very irrelevant with her book choice. As you can see, she graded off the wrong book. At least the students won in the end, but holy crap, those kids are smart. They make me just feel dumb. This kid's over here 16 and his friend in the same grades over here getting a lawyer and freaking filing lawsuits, and I'm over here just trying to get an A in biology. Like, come on, man. Alright guys, I'm going to conclude today's video there, considering it's midnight and I'm exhausted and it's like 15 minutes long, which is regular than normal. But anyway, time to stop being irrelevant. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys are new to my channel, be sure to drop a like and a sub. We're almost at 15,000 guys. That would be amazing if we could hit that by tomorrow. Also, I made a Twitter, links in the description. If you want to follow me on Instagram, that's down there as well. Discord link is in the description as well. At 1,000 members, I will be doing a giveaway. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.